I have been taking care of my terminally ill best friend, and now his estranged father wants to take control. I've kept how difficult this has been from everyone. Alex and I have known each other since college, and when he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer 14 months ago, I didn't hesitate to step up. At first, I drove him to appointments and helped with groceries, but as things got worse, he asked me to move into his small house to help with daily care. I'm a freelance graphic designer, so I rearranged my schedule to accommodate this responsibility. Some clients dropped me when I couldn't maintain the same availability, but this was more important. Alex doesn't have family to help. His mom died when he was in college, and his dad, Garrett, left when Alex was 15. Alex never talked about his dad much, except to say they were better off without him. The past few months have been rough. Alex has good days and bad days, and lately there are more bad than good. The hospice team comes 3 times a week and has taught me how to manage his pain medications and help him when he has trouble breathing. I sleep on a cot next to his bed most nights because he often needs help in the middle of the night. It's exhausting, but I wouldn't have it any other way. Alex would do the same for me. When Alex's oncologist told us the cancer was progressing despite treatment, Alex decided to focus on comfort care rather than continuing treatments that were making him miserable with no real chance of extending his life. He gave me medical power of attorney and was clear about his wishes. He wanted to be at home until the end. No heroic measures, no hospitals unless absolutely necessary. We spent a weekend getting the paperwork in order with a lawyer who specializes in end-of-life planning. Alex was adamant everything be legally sound. Yesterday I was working on a design project while Alex napped when someone knocked on the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened it, a man introduced himself as Garrett, Alex's father, and said he wanted to reconnect. I stopped in the doorway, not my proudest moment, Taba. I recognized him from old photos Alex had shown me, but after more than 15 years of no contact, it was a shock. Before I could process it, he pushed past me into the house without waiting for an invitation. Seriously, who does that? He looked around and asked why the curtains were drawn. I explained that Alex is sensitive to light because of his medication. He said the house needed cleaning and opened the curtains. I stood there in disbelief. Then Alex called from the bedroom, asking who was there. Before I could stop him, Garrett barged down the hallway toward Alex's room. I followed, worried about upsetting Alex more. Garrett stood over Alex's bed and said Alex looked terrible. He said Alex needed to be in a hospital where medical professionals could take care of him. When Alex explained he'd chosen comfort care at home with his oncologist's support, Garrett asked, "Who made that decision?" Alex tried to explain his choices, but Garrett interrupted him, saying Alex was not in his right mind to make decisions. Alex became more distressed. I tried to intervene, but Garrett talked over me. He saw the medication schedule on my whiteboard and asked what drugs I was giving his son. I explained everything was prescribed by Alex's doctors and managed by the hospice team. He picked up a pill bottle and read the label out loud. Many commenters pointed out I should have called the police when he pushed in. They're right. I was shocked and worried about upsetting Alex, so I didn't think clearly. After 20 minutes, Alex was exhausted. I told Garrett Alex needed rest and medication. Garrett left after saying he'd be back to sort things out. He took one of Alex's medical folders from the counter before I could stop him. It had copies of his treatment plan and insurance information. Once he was gone, I helped Alex take his pain medication and tried to calm him. He was upset and apologized repeatedly. He had nothing to apologize for. It took over an hour for him to settle and fall back asleep. I blame myself for not shutting Garrett down, but I wasn't prepared for someone to be so aggressive. Later that evening, I got a text from Garrett saying he was looking into legal options and accusing me of taking advantage of a vulnerable person. I was furious. He abandoned his son for 15 years and now acts like he knows what's best. I've been anxious. Alex has made it clear he doesn't want conflict in his final months. His biggest wish is peace and dignity at the end of his life. Now I'm afraid Garrett will create legal problems that will distress Alex during the time he has left. I contacted a legal aid attorney this morning who said the power of attorney should hold up since Alex was competent when he made it. But that doesn't mean Garrett can't cause problems in the meantime. The attorney suggested documenting everything and potentially getting a restraining order if Garrett continues to show up uninvited. Alex doesn't know about the text. When he woke up, he seemed more tired, but didn't mention his father's visit. I made him his favorite breakfast, and we watched an episode of his baking show. The hospice nurse came by for her visit today and noticed Alex seemed more withdrawn. When I explained what happened, she said the stress could impact his condition and suggested I speak with their social worker, who has experience with family conflicts during end-of-life care. Alex's condition has been declining steadily over the past few weeks. The hospice team has prepared me for the fact that we're probably looking at months rather than years. The last thing Alex needs is legal drama and emotional turmoil from a father who hasn't been part of his life for over a decade. I keep going back and forth on what to do about Garrett. Part of me wants to be aggressive in protecting Alex from this intrusion, but another part worries that more conflict will just make Alex's final time more stressful. Is there something obvious I'm not seeing about how to handle this situation? Now for the first update. I decided to confront Garrett about his text message, like many of you suggested in my last post. First of all, thank you all so much for the support and advice on my original post. It's been 3 days since Garrett's unexpected visit, and things have escalated quickly. Yesterday, I received a formal-looking letter in the mail. It was from an attorney stating that Garrett is contesting Alex's power of attorney and seeking temporary guardianship. The letter claimed I have undue influence over Alex and am preventing proper medical care, which is complete BS. Alex's entire medical team supports his care plan. I sat with that letter for hours, trying to figure out what to do. Several people commented suggesting I shouldn't keep secrets from Alex, so I finally decided to talk to him about it when he was having a relatively good moment. I wish I hadn't. As soon as I explained what was happening, Alex became extremely distressed. His breathing got rapid, and I could see his heart rate climbing on his monitor. He kept insisting he didn't want to see his father and that I was the only person he trusted with his care decisions. I immediately called the legal aid attorney I'd contacted earlier, as many of you suggested. Thank you for that advice. She advised me to document everything and suggested we get Alex's wishes formally restated while he's still clearly competent. She explained that Garrett's claims would likely be weak given the properly executed paperwork we already have, but said we should prepare for a potential hearing, not what either of us needs right now. I spent that evening making detailed notes of everything that had happened since Garrett showed up. Alex slept fitfully, waking up several times with anxiety. I stayed by his bed most of the night, reassuring him that I wouldn't let anyone make decisions he didn't want. Then, yesterday afternoon, Garrett showed up unannounced again. This time he wasn't alone. He had a woman with him that he introduced as Caroline, apparently Alex's cousin who Alex hasn't seen in years. I only opened the door a crack, explaining that Alex was having a particularly difficult day with pain management and needed rest, not visitors. Garrett immediately pushed the door wider. He said he has every right to see his child, and that I couldn't keep him away from his own flesh and blood, coming from someone who disappeared for 15 years. Caroline stood behind him without saying anything as Garrett forced his way into the house. I tried to block the hallway to Alex's room, but Garrett raised his voice, causing Alex to call out weakly, asking what was happening. The last thing Alex needed was more stress. Before I could stop him, Garrett brushed past me and entered Alex's room with Caroline trailing behind. Garrett immediately began talking about experimental treatments he'd researched online. He had printouts from sketchy websites about cancer-fighting superfoods and some clinic in Mexico that claimed to cure stage 4 cancers. Alex's oncologist has explicitly stated his cancer is terminal. I watched as Alex became increasingly distressed. His heart rate monitor showed elevated numbers as Garrett continued talking about fighting and not giving up. Alex was too weak to argue back, lying still as Garrett accused him of not trying hard enough to live. When I tried to intervene, Garrett turned to Caroline and said, "See how they try to control everything? They don't want Alex to have hope." The breaking point came when Alex began to cry silently. I'd only seen him cry twice during this entire ordeal, once when he got his terminal diagnosis, and once when he had to rehome his cat because he couldn't care for it anymore. I told Garrett and Caroline they needed to leave immediately. I placed myself between them and Alex's bed and said, "He has made his choices clear. You're causing him distress, and that's the opposite of what he needs right now. Please leave." As I ushered them toward the door, Garrett said loudly enough for Alex to hear, "I'm not giving up on you, even if you've given up on yourself. I'm going to fight for you since no one else will." The look on Alex's face when he heard that. After they left, I spent over an hour helping Alex calm down. His pain was significantly worse, Emotional distress always makes his physical symptoms flare up. I gave him an extra dose of his breakthrough pain medication, which makes him groggy but was necessary to help him find any comfort. When he fell asleep, I sat in the kitchen and cried from frustration and anger. I felt like I'd failed him by not preventing Garrett from barging in again, though many of you pointed out in comments that I can't physically restrain someone without risking legal issues. I was running low on energy when my phone buzzed around 10 p.m. It was a text from Caroline, Alex's supposed cousin. She apologized for the intrusion and asked if we could talk privately, saying there were things about Garrett that I should know. Her message seemed genuine, so I agreed to meet her for coffee the next day while the hospice nurse was with Alex. To answer some common questions from my last post. 1. Yes, I've documented everything, including taking photos of the legal papers Garrett took. 2. We have security cameras now, thanks to a friend who installed them yesterday. 3. No, Alex doesn't have other family members involved in his care. His mom was an only child, and his maternal grandparents passed away years ago. The hospice social worker came by this morning and has been helpful. She's dealt with family conflicts during end-of-life care before and is helping me navigate this situation. She's contacted their legal resource team to help us prepare for whatever Garrett might try next. Alex is sleeping now. He's more exhausted than usual today after yesterday's confrontation. The hospice nurse says his vitals are stable, but notes that his overall condition continues to decline. We're focusing on keeping him comfortable and protecting him from additional stress, which is becoming my full-time job. I'm still trying to process everything that's happening. Part of me is terrified about the legal battle Garrett is initiating, but a bigger part is just worried about Alex and making sure his final months are peaceful. The last thing he deserves is to have his estranged father intervening and questioning the choices he's made about his own body and life. I'm meeting Caroline tomorrow to hear what she has to say. Not sure what to expect with Garrett's legal maneuvers, but I'll update again when I know more. Thank you all again for the support and practical advice. Now for the second update. Update 2. Well, so much has happened since my last post about Alex's dad that I barely know where to begin. Thanks to everyone who reached out with support and advice seriously. Like many of you suggested, I met with Caroline and discovered some disturbing info about Garrett's real motivations. I met Caroline at a coffee shop near Alex's place while the hospice nurse stayed with him. I was honestly expecting some dramatic family secret, because why else meet secretly, right? But what she told me was both more mundane and more disgusting. According to Caroline, Garrett had recently discovered that Alex has a substantial life insurance policy and a modest inheritance from his maternal grandparents. She said Garrett had been making comments to family members about what would happen to Alex's estate and had specifically asked about the house and financial assets multiple times. Caroline looked uncomfortable as she explained that she initially believed Garrett's claims about wanting to reconnect with his son. But she became suspicious when, during their visit, she noticed he was more interested in looking at Alex's paperwork than in his comfort. She even caught him taking photos of some documents when I was adjusting Alex's medication. I may be his cousin, but we haven't been close in years, she admitted. I feel terrible for being part of this now. The way he talked about getting Alex proper care on the drive over sounded caring, but looking back, it feels calculated. I thanked her for coming forward and we exchanged numbers. As we were leaving, she mentioned that Garrett had told several family members that Alex was being manipulated in his vulnerable state and that he was just trying to protect his son's assets from that friend taking advantage. The absolute nerve of this man who abandoned his son for 15 plus years to suggest I'm taking advantage. When I got home, there was a certified letter waiting for me. It was notification of an emergency court hearing scheduled for next week regarding Garrett's petition for guardianship. He's moving fast, probably because he knows Alex doesn't have much time left, which makes me sick to think about. I immediately called the legal aid attorney, who agreed to represent us despite her heavy caseload. She explained that having a medical evaluation of Alex's decision-making capacity would strengthen our case. So yesterday, while Alex was having a rare good day, able to stay awake for more than an hour with pain managed, I arranged for his oncologist, Dr. Chen, to make a house call. Dr. Chen has been amazing throughout this whole ordeal. She's been treating Alex for over a year and supports his decision for comfort care rather than aggressive treatment. She arrived around 2 p.m. and spent time talking with Alex, assessing his mental clarity and understanding of his situation and care decisions. Everything was going according to plan until the doorbell rang. I excused myself to answer it, and there stood Garrett with another man I didn't recognize. Before I could process what was happening, Garrett pushed his way inside, again with the barging in. Dude has zero boundaries. Perfect timing, he announced. I brought my medical consultant to evaluate Alex's condition. The other man introduced himself as a holistic health coach. I was about to tell them to leave when Dr. Chen stepped into the hallway. She introduced herself as Alex's oncologist and asked about the credentials of Garrett's consultant. The man hesitated before admitting he wasn't a licensed medical professional, just a wellness advocate specializing in alternative cancer approaches. Dr. Chen was professional and said she could not allow an unqualified person to participate in a medical evaluation. Garrett started accusing Dr. Chen of being part of some medical establishment that gives up on patients instead of exploring real cures. He demanded a second opinion from real experts who don't just push hospice when there are treatments available. Dr. Chen maintained her composure, I wish I had her patience, and explained that Alex had already received multiple opinions and had made informed choices about his care plan. She said that at this stage, focusing on quality of life rather than pursuing unproven treatments is a valid and common choice for patients with advanced pancreatic cancer. This only made Garrett more agitated. He spoke loudly. Dr. Chen told him that he was causing harm and needed to leave immediately or she would call security. Instead of backing down, Garrett pointed at me and shouted, "You've turned everyone against me. My own son is dying and you won't even let me help." His consultant backed toward the door. I didn't say anything. After a tense standoff, Garrett stormed out, slamming the door so hard that one of Alex's framed photos fell off the wall and shattered. Dr. Chen stayed to complete her evaluation, documenting that Alex is fully competent to make medical decisions and understands the implications of his chosen care plan. Before leaving, she told me she's willing to testify at the guardianship hearing about Alex's competence and how Garrett's interventions are negatively impacting his quality of life. "This isn't my first time dealing with family conflicts during end-of-life care," she said. "I'll make sure the court understands that Alex's wishes are clear and should be respected." The incident left Alex exhausted. I spent the rest of the afternoon trying to help him relax, but his pain levels were elevated and he needed extra breakthrough medication. That evening, he seemed more withdrawn than usual. When I asked if he was okay, he finally opened up. "I'm afraid of being forced into a hospital," he admitted. "I just want to die here at home with my stuff and you taking care of me, not hooked up to machines with him making decisions." I promised I'd do everything possible to prevent that. We spent the evening going through old photos he wanted me to have, and I recorded a new video of him stating his wishes, which our lawyer suggested would help at the hearing. Today I've been preparing documentation for the court hearing next week, gathering Alex's medical records, the power of attorney paperwork, and statements from his hospice team. Our lawyer thinks we have a strong case since Alex executed the power of attorney when he was unquestionably competent, and all medical professionals involved support his decisions. Edit 4:30 p.m. Just got off the phone with Caroline again. She's agreed to testify at the hearing about Garrett's comments regarding Alex's assets. She also mentioned that Garrett has been telling family members I kept them apart. Completely false. Garrett walked out when Alex was 16 and made zero attempts to contact him until now. The hospice nurse who came this morning noticed Alex's increased anxiety and suggested adjusting his medication regimen to help manage both physical pain and emotional distress. She documented his decline, noting that these confrontations are having a measurable negative impact on his fragile health. I keep thinking about Garrett's accusations and how twisted they are. He claims to want what's best for Alex, but he's causing so much distress during what should be final months. The hospice social worker says this kind of situation is unfortunately common. Estranged family members suddenly appearing and challenging end-of-life care decisions. Knowing it happens to others doesn't make it any easier to deal with, though your comments and support definitely help. I'm trying to stay focused on Alex and not let all this legal drama take away from the time we have left. He's sleeping more now, and when he's awake, he's often confused or in pain. These lucid moments have become even more important, and I'm grateful for each one. Part of me just wants to take Alex and disappear somewhere Garrett can't find us, but I know that's not realistic or what Alex needs right now. The court hearing is in 5 days, and I'm equal parts terrified and determined to make sure Alex's wishes are respected until the end. Now for the final update. final update on protecting my dying best friend from his greedy, estranged father. First, I want to thank this community for all the advice and support over these past few weeks. You guys kept me sane during what has been the most stressful time of my life. The guardianship hearing was yesterday, and I spent the days leading up to it gathering documentation. Alex has gotten significantly worse since my last update, so he couldn't attend in person. The judge agreed to accept video testimony we recorded with a court officer present 3 days ago. My partner Maya took the day off work to stay with Alex during the hearing. I didn't want to leave him alone, especially since Garrett had shown up unannounced before. Maya handled her job, picked up my slack, and brought meals so I didn't have to cook. She and Alex have always gotten along, and I knew he'd be in good hands with her. When I arrived at the courthouse 20 minutes early, I saw Garrett standing in the hallway outside the courtroom with about 6 people I recognized from old photos as Alex's extended family, cousins and aunts he hasn't spoken to in years. I sat on a bench far from them, texting updates to Maya, who assured me Alex was comfortable and dozing. Our legal aid attorney met me outside the courtroom 5 minutes before the hearing. She took our case pro bono, despite a heavy caseload. She briefed me on what to expect and reminded me to stay calm no matter what Garrett or his lawyer said. Once inside, Garrett's attorney went first, and I tried not to interrupt. He claimed I was a controlling friend who had isolated Alex from his family and was making medical decisions against fighting for life. He suggested I was after Alex's property and assets. The family members Garrett brought nodded during his attorney's speech. Most of them hadn't contacted Alex since his diagnosis. Where were they during doctor appointments, the nights of vomiting from chemo, or the day we decided to stop treatment and focus on comfort? When it was our turn, our attorney played the video of Alex stating his wishes. He explained that he had chosen comfort care, that he wanted to remain in his home until the end, and that he did not want Garrett involved in his care. Several family members shifted in their seats when Alex mentioned that Garrett's visits had caused him distress. Dr. Chen was our next witness. She testified about Alex's mental competence, explaining that while his physical condition was deteriorating, his decision-making capacity remained intact. She detailed how the stress from Garrett's interventions had worsened Alex's condition, increased his pain levels and anxiety, and accelerated his decline. The medical charts she brought showed spikes in Alex's vital signs and pain medication needs following Garrett's visits. Our attorney presented text messages between Garrett and Caroline discussing Alex's assets and investment property. Caroline had forwarded these to me after our coffee shop meeting, and seeing them on the courtroom screen revealed Garrett's motivations. One message showed Garrett asking Caroline if she knew how much the house was worth and mentioning that medical decisions should be made by family, not friends who might benefit financially. Garrett jumped to his feet, shouting that I was twisting everything and that he only wanted what was best for his son. The judge banged his gavel and ordered Garrett to sit down or be removed from the courtroom. His attorney whispered to him until he finally sat down, glaring at me. Caroline was our final witness. She confirmed that Garrett had shown almost no interest in Alex's care during his visits, focusing on paperwork, the house, and financial matters. When asked if Garrett had tried to reconnect with Alex before learning about his diagnosis and potential assets, she said no. Several family members looked shocked. The judge, who had been taking notes throughout, addressed Garrett. He asked when Garrett had last seen Alex before the cancer diagnosis. Garrett admitted it had been over 15 years. The judge then asked if he had provided any financial support or birthday cards during that time. Our attorney presented hospice documentation showing how Alex's pain levels and anxiety increased after each of Garrett's visits. The hospice nurse noted the correlation and recorded Alex's statements about not wanting to see his father again. After a brief recess, the judge returned with his decision. He denied Garrett's petition for guardianship and upheld the validity of Alex's power of attorney. He also issued a restraining order preventing Garrett from visiting Alex without written permission. The judge cited the medical evidence showing how these visits harmed Alex's condition and noted the financial motivation in the text messages. Our attorney squeezed my shoulder and whispered, "You did it," before gathering her papers. As I turned to leave, 3 of Alex's family members approached me. An aunt apologized for believing Garrett's story and asked how they could support Alex now. I gave them my number and suggested sending cards or short videos rather than visiting, given Alex's condition. When I got home, Maya was reading beside Alex's bed while he dozed. Alex stirred when I came in and when I told him we'd won, he whispered thank you before drifting back to sleep. That evening, as I adjusted Alex's medication and settled in for another night of caregiving, I felt some relief. The legal battle was over, and now we could focus on making Alex's remaining time as comfortable as possible. His decline continues, but at least he'll spend that time without the added stress of Garrett's intrusions. Edit. Many people have asked about Alex's extended family. 2 cousins have sent cards that I've read to him, and his aunt dropped off a quilt yesterday. Alex appreciated knowing some family members care without strings attached. If you're caring for someone at the end of their life, protect their peace. To everyone who offered support, thank you for helping a stranger through one of the hardest chapters of my life.